The next one, I think, is quite important for any startup. And in kind of in the early stage, we always make these things very often and be part of those, similar as this event, textuals, so space of events. And the brand exposure in events will be the next keynote, which will be presented by Ben Costantini from Sesamers.
Give a very, very big round of applause, you guys. Still some energy left.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Please raise your hand if it's your first time here at TechShield. Can you just do this raise your hand thing? OK, we have like a good 25% of the room. After Zach's keynote, you pivoted, you have your company figured out. You're going to need to master this subject, brand exposure at events. Entrepreneurs can change the world if they attend the right event at the right time. I've been praising this for already many years. And let me tell you a little story. You know that Uber was created, the idea, out of a conference in Paris back in 2008. It was snowing. It was a madness to get a cab. And the guys were like, can we find a better solution? Fast forward today, 150 billion company. So this is the power of events, right? And also Zach, just before, was telling about his own experience where he got his first startup out of going to a conference. I've been working with over 3,000 speakers for the past 10 years, more than 500 events. And really, like at the end of the day, the work that I did with my team got experienced by over 1 million attendees. I think we're getting closer to 2 million right now. And if you are interested on this subject, just go to sesamers.com. You'll learn more about it. So I was saying the events are very powerful. Do you know that 80% of marketers believe that events are more powerful than digital channels? And it's becoming even more the case nowadays with AI-generated content, the challenges around GDPR, and also the fact that the traditional marketing funnel is kind of broken. It's not very much like a multi-touch point type of journey. And so field marketing, which is that particular aspect of marketing, is back. And it's a very powerful aspect for startups, and that's what I would like to share with you today. So giving you practical information, stuff that you can take back home and apply so that next year when you're here at TechShield, you master your brand exposure of your company. So it's tailored more to startups, but I hope it's useful for others. First question, why do you go to events? This is a list of 8. There might be more. Number one reason for startups is to network, right? Is to meet people, communicate about your brand, raise funds, or find startups, speak, like I'm doing right now, grow abroad, grow internationally, explore new markets, sell your products. That's what you do at an exhibition, and maybe hire, right? Find talent. Let me clarify one thing also before I get into more details. I'm talking a bit more about tech events here, which is a particular category of events. And even that category is quite diverse. So TechShield, where we are here, is pretty much focused on matching startups with investors, right? The positioning, the offer is really this one. But then you have here in Riga an event like Techritory, which is also about innovation and technology, but it's more an institutional event, right? Like you have like politicians, officials who are going there to talk about innovation and kind of clarify their roadmap. If you go deeper, we did that slide for a fintech fund who wanted to go more to French events to show the diversity, and it's kind of really what's going on here, is that there's so many events that can serve so many different goals. That's something that you will learn by practicing. And just here you can see events that are made for startups, events that are more specific to vertical, exhibitions, meaning places where you're coming to sell your product or service, events that are really focused around network building. So if you go there, you don't really have a network already, you're screwed, basically. Leadership events, think of it like the Davos of France type of thing, and then verticals events. This is just like a quick glance. There's a lot more than this, but just to give you an idea. And this is not getting any better. Number of events is growing, post-COVID growing. There's more events everywhere. People are figuring out, OK, which one are the right one? How do I get ROI out of it? We say this to founders, especially early-stage founders. One thing that you need to master from the get-go is how much time you spend preparing. There's a very simple formula. Test it. It works. If the event is 2 days, multiplied by 3, you have to spend 6 days planning, right? That's it. If you're not able to do that, you're not going to be able to maximize the value that you could get out of it. I'm going to spend a bit of time on the next slide because I want to go through like the different opportunities and events depending on your goals. This slide is probably one of the most interesting ones. I'm going to talk about what founders are facing when it comes to finding the right event, what investors face, what operators, thinking more like corporates, brands, and also ecosystem, like the government side of things. So the main problem for a founder, it's a new brand, no one knows them, right? That's kind of what's going on here. The strength is that they can decide very quickly. They can make decisions around like, okay, we should go there next week, let's say to TechShield. That can happen very quickly. The type of content that a founder can deliver during an event is mostly the pitch. This is also why here you have the founders, 50 founders battle as one key piece of content where founders are shining on stage. Go-to-market local events or regional, like this one, and also delegations. So when a group of startups are going together to an event with like a government or an accelerator or this type of thing. For the investor, I like to say that there's kind of a brand bias, meaning that most investors think that their brand is like the coolest one out there, and it's not really the case. At the end of the day, you're not Andreessen Horowitz. Sorry about that. But they have a very strong power is that you have a network. You can bring in portfolio companies, other investors, and that's a very good way to create content opportunities around panels, for example. This is like the thing that we always advise investors to think about, like how can you bring something like all prepared, like the organizer just look like, okay, I have like 2 founders, 2 VCs on the panel, amazing. But also judging, right? Judging the pitches, that is something that typically investors will be doing at events. Go-to-market, organizing side events, they love to do dinners, and also sponsoring, and you can see it with Karma sponsoring the deal room, right? A good example of an event that investors love is Slush. I know that a lot of people here know the event. It's really optimized for the investor experience. Operators. Big problem if you work at corporation, you don't really have ownership on the subject, meaning that you don't decide really the event strategy, the event roadmap. It's corporate communication, marketing, someone else. Power is that you have a strong brand. So a lot of events will be interested in having that logo on the speaker list. Go content-wise, it's a panel type of format, and it's also workshops, either that you are organizing on your own booth or that you're sponsoring and having as part of the official program. Go-to-market, sorry about that, but it's sponsoring. Every single event on the planet will expect a brand to spend money to support their initiative towards startups. And again, startups don't have money, so someone has to pay the bill. Good example, Vivatech. Fantastic event tailored to the needs of big brands and corporates, and like kind of a pleasure for an operator to experiment. And finally, ecosystem players. I was talking about government, this type of organization. Again, I don't want to say something against anybody in the room, but it's kind of boring. Like anything that comes from a government thing is not really appealing per se. Strength, you have money, you have funding. This is actually your commitment is to fund events, is to bring startups and spend money to do your commitment to support entrepreneurs. Type of content, pitches of startups that are coming with you, or workshops similar to the operator. Go-to-market sponsoring, and also the delegation part that I was talking about. And the number one event for this, as of today in Europe, is Web Summit. This is really the event that is a bit more tailored to bringing this type of groups together and provide value to them. So yeah, I wanted to spend some time on it because it really help you kind of understand how you approach events and also to think more like an event. There's already something I'd like you to ponder for a second. If you put yourself in the shoes of the organizers, there's mainly 2 challenges on the marketing side, which is basically to get people to know about the event, and on the sales side, which is to monetize this audience and these people. On marketing, program people, and I mentioned Andreessen Horowitz earlier, what they want are the biggest names, right? And they want the biggest names with the least amount of investment in terms of speaker budget. They also want to get a lot of press and coverage, but what they would love to get is press coverage before the event, which they never get. And then there's the partnership barter side of thing, which is basically you're looking into communities and organizations that can help you spread the word. But you never really know, are they really impactful? And so you're going to be spending time creating this type of partnership without really knowing what's going to be the ROI. So if you can help the organizer solve any of this, then you have a conversation that can be very powerful. And on the sales side, same story. How do you make money here? Well, selling exhibition space, so like booth, as you can see outside. The problem, it takes a lot of time to close deals. Startups that don't have money. The sponsorship side, I was mentioning earlier that VCs, they really love to do their dinners, but they're not paying anything for it. So you're as an organizer, you're really stressed out to be able to monetize this as well. And basically the growth, again, specifically for tech events, it's very hard to renew your contracts. It's very hard to get clients already today for next year events, which is the opposite for the exhibition industry. And so basically you have to constantly chase new contracts and you're just dreaming to be able to have multi-year contracts like Web Summit is doing. Or maybe you're looking when are we able to launch a new event and create a new revenue line? These are the questions that the events are asking themselves. So if you have solutions, you have a conversation to have, and you see here the point is that you're thinking like them and how you can provide value versus how do you get value out of them. I'm going to go a bit deeper on very practical tips on 4 aspects of brand exposure, communication, exhibition sales. I go very quickly here, and I spend a bit more time on the speaking side. What's happening here when you go to an event is what you can call moment marketing. So basically, there is a moment in time, there's momentum that you can create around your brand. And even if you're a very small company or you're a new brand, this is the basic thing that you can do around the concentration and density of people and awareness that happens during events. Typically, this is a very good place to launch a new product. This is a good story from the Twitter launch that happened at South by Southwest. They are here on the photo in 2008, and it's part of the story of that company that they were able to really garner like a lot of traction, a lot of users by how they used the event very smartly. You can launch reports. There is a very interesting practice from Atomico that every year is using Slush to communicate around the State of European Tech report. You can launch new market. This is also something that events are quite interested to say, hey, this company is kind of opening market and they're doing it at my event. And then startup programs. Like I can think of like the e-residency program from Estonia, how they were leveraging events from the very beginning to get the word out. Toolbox, a very basic one. Sorry, put my face again, but to the IB at the event visual, you probably saw this, all over the place for TechShield. It's becoming kind of a must, People are just saying, hey, I'm going to be there. It's easy, low key, no cost. Hashtags, it sounds like an old thing, but it's still a thing that makes sense around events. So basically communicating using the event hashtags and kind of newsjacking, meaning you're jumping on what's happening during the event and engaging in the conversation. And one thing that I believe is truly underserved is what you do in terms of live coverage, meaning how do you communicate live during the event about your experience here, what your company is doing, but also about others. Like it can make a lot of sense to just be like, oh, this particular speaker or this company that is exhibiting is very interesting. My audience could learn from them. I'm going to also talk about them. Get a retweet, to get the idea. This is a bit more like a PR subject, and I know that we have a great speaker afterwards. So I go forward. If you can communicate, don't come to the event. Some tips, very practical. Try to templatize everything, meaning that once you do something for the first time, you have it ready to reuse it. And that's something beautiful about events, is that they tend to be always the same thing. It's always the same date, always the same place. So there's a lot of things that you can just create your template, go on, and do it. There's low copyright enforcement, which what I'm trying to say here is compared to other media who try to keep the ownership of their content. Events, they really like if you go and remix stuff and create content out of their own content. So they won't go after you. That's something that you can also leverage. Show yourself next to speakers. I don't know if you've noticed, but because I'm doing this thing, part of my job, I can't avoid seeing on LinkedIn people who are posting this typical carousel of speakers, and they put their face here in the middle. So you have Steve Wozniak and like the big guns, and then suddenly you have founder who nobody knows who's there. Simple thing, but super powerful. Create original content, meaning that you use this time to go out and record stuff, like do this for your communication channels, and target niche media, which is something that I've always been praising. I had the pleasure to meet media from Slovakia, for example, and I think it would have been possible if I wasn't here at this type of event, right? Exhibit and sponsor. I'll go quickly, as I say. 2025, if you're exhibiting, please design for engagement. I don't know if you saw yesterday, a startup here was exhibiting with a booth that was like an old office with like a fax machine and an old computer. It was precious. It was really a great way to create this type of engagement and get people to come over. You need to be ready to do live demos, to think about what you can give away. This is also practical, basic stuff, but again, keep that in mind when you're planning to be an exhibitor. Think about content. What can you do at your booth in terms of content? Even if it's just like a small session, a Q&A or something, you can communicate about. How do you capture leads? This is also kind of a sad thing, but every time I go to an event, including this one, and I go, stop at a booth, look at the founder, get a quick pitch, and I just leave, and he doesn't get my contact details. I'm like, what happened there? Like, what's going on? And I know, basic stuff, but when you are at a Web Summit crammed in the middle of 3,000 startups, as you can see in this picture, you must get those contacts, right? And have a plan for follow-up and to measure the success of your activity. One of the reasons why marketers really like events that I mentioned at the beginning is that it's easier to track the performance. Basically, you say, okay, I spent 5K, 10K for that particular exhibition space. How many contacts and leads did we secure out of this? In 6 months, how many of them became clients? Like there's a clear attribution that can, it's a bit more complex than that, but you get the idea. Like I can see how much money I get out of exhibiting. And a good example for us was working with a big food trade show where we were working with startups over there. And after the first day, many companies, and it's a B2B exhibition, right? Many companies already got the return on investment just after the first day because they were meeting clients, they were signing deals, they were making business, right? The sponsor toolbox. So here, you need, again, sounds obvious, but please align with the event themes. If you're coming here to TechShield, you, as a brand, what you are supposed to be supporting is the next generation entrepreneurs. You want to help educate founders, and whatever you're going to be doing in terms of activities and engagement should be about it. You can create custom activations. You must be on the stage. You must be a speaker. If an event tells you it's not possible, they're lying. And also think about content partnerships, meaning that since you are coming as a partner, as a speaker, there are activities that you can plug into, like other side events, maybe media, conversations. And the main reason, or one of the main reasons for our companies and brands to sponsor events like this one, like tech events, is to get access, exclusive access to certain audiences, whether it's investors or promising founders. Let's get to the part that I hope will be the most impactful for everyone here. Speaking. Public speaking is not the same thing as speaking in public. So when you're a founder, you used to go and talk. You talk a lot. When you're French, like me, you talk a lot. So that's one thing. You speak. But public speaking, it's different, right? That's not the same exercise. And unfortunately, a lot of founders don't understand that they're not good at public speaking and that they should invest in it. That's the case. That it's like the more genius you are, the more you think you're great at speaking in public, which might be the case when you're talking to your engineers. When you take the stage here, and I won't name anybody, but I saw a few during TechShield, yeah, you're not really good at public speaking. Sorry about that. So what we've been advising founders, investors, founders maybe after seed, like after a certain level, when it makes sense for you to go and invest in your event strategy, is to build what we call a speaker program, right? So you identify internally, okay, who are the people who should be spokesperson and go out to events and represent our company. And you do an initial assessment. I'll explain what it is. Build your strategy, execute, and review. The initial assessment is basically back to why you go to an event. You have to define what are your goals and how you measure the success. What are the KPIs? It can be as simple as like, I need to have 5 meetings with investors. This is how you are owning your commitment to events, and you're like, this is what I want to achieve, right? Public speaking have KPIs that can be related to media coverage, to number of new followers on social media. There's a lot of ways to look at it. What content do you have already available? Very important one. We did a work for the French government a few years ago where we reviewed how much content from the top 120 French tech founders was available online in English, and it was 23%. So it means that 3/4 of the French founders, the top one, they don't have anything in English online, so I don't know how they're going to get a speaking slot, And you need to know that as you're going to go out, you will probably need to create new content, right? Like if you have little content available, you need to create new content. And one thing that I really love, YouTube SEO, search for yourself online. That's what an event organizer, like a program person, is going to be doing. I put myself because this is a result of searching my name on YouTube, so I'm quite lucky because it's not really a shame for me to show this. So number 1 result and then number 4 result over there. Number 4 result is not really something that I own, so it's kind of not the best result for me, but that's kind of okay. An investor, someone who has been at different funds, it's so bad. Like really, literally, the majority, when you search, you will find old, podcast stuff that they did during COVID. You will find the speaking slot that they did 8 years ago when they were at that other fund. Super bad. And that's what you need to address. You build your event strategy, mapping the events, geography, audience, allocate the budget, the staffing. It's not going to work alone. Align with your PR team, meaning do you have announcement? Do you have something coming up throughout the year? An AGM, as a VC, etc. And think about what you could also do to create your own events. execute that timeline minimum 4 months to 6 months before you need to be engaging to get a speaking opportunity. South by Southwest, a famous panel picker, is like in July for the event that is in March. If you miss that, and you're going out for contact in September, October, it's too late. You have an opportunity to go to call for startups, call for speakers. You will need to create original content, to track your performance, and do a quarterly review. I'm getting to the end, so no worries. Maybe I'll go over 30 seconds. Some tips, rehearse your proposal. This is what I tried to do here today. As for the recording, I'm supposed to get this recording in 3 weeks. I'll make sure that I get it. Think about your clothes, makeup. Here they do, makeup artists are here available, which is amazing because I look a lot better on the video. Remove your badge on stage. Have friends in the audience. I have a few. Get some photos from them. And master the start and the end of the session. It's very important, that part, knowing how you start and knowing how to you end. You can 10x your brand with events with us. Join us on Sesamers, subscribe to our free newsletters, a lot of resources. If you want to join us as a venture scout, I'm actively looking for it right now. We organize an event for event organizers and marketing people from VCs. Sesamers Summit, you can apply to participate, and we're also raising funds. That's all for me today. My contacts are here. I'm really available. My phone is on the internet. No problem. Looking forward to meeting you all. Thank you.